to decide on applications for home occupation permits, special use permits, exceptions, and variances to zoning ordinance, applications for conditional use permits in the floodplain, requests for reasonable accommodations because of handicap, and appeals of, appeals of decisions of the zoning enforcement officer. As a board of the city, we welcome all testimony. We make our decisions based on the facts and evidence as allowed under city code and presented in open meeting. Testimony before the board must be given under oath or affirmation. If the proceedings become lengthy, we may ask that testimony be focused on new facts or evidence that not already presented. We ask that you come to the microphone if you wish to speak, so your testimony will be audible and may be recorded. Before speaking, please complete an orange information card and hand it to the recording secretary. When you are testifying, please address your remarks to the board. We also ask that the proceedings be orderly. The Zoning Board of Adjustment is an independent volunteer board of citizens. We are not part of the city administration. We are served in our efforts by Jane Chang, Assistant City Attorney, Justin Moore, Planner, Eloise Sahlstrom, also Planner, and Jackie Clark, Recording Secretary. The order of proceedings for this application will be as follows. First, an oral statement summarizing the issues and procedural steps will be presented by staff. Second, testimony and evidence will be presented by the applicant. Third, testimony may be heard from any member of the audience who wishes to speak in support of or in opposition to the appeal. Next, the board will give the applicant and city staff an opportunity to present concluding summaries and arguments. And finally, the board will discuss the issues and evidence and come to a decision. First on our agenda is meetings or approval of the minutes of the meeting of January 9th, 2019.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second. I have a correction. Sorry.
Oh, I didn't find it.
Page 3, second paragraph, Ronnie Friedrich's address, Kenyon, not Kenyon. That's the only one I saw.
Oh, okay.
Other than that, with the first and second, with the correction, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Second on the agenda is exception for a minor area modification to allow a reduced side setback for the construction of a second floor addition for the property located at 2006 Kildee Street.
Good evening. This item is, as you indicated, an exception for minor area modification. The zoning is residential low density. And the property is located within the South Campus area neighborhood. It's on the corner of Beach and Kildee. The property owner would like to build a second story onto the existing first story. The side yard that is to the left, to the west, I'm sorry. The side yard to the west currently has a setback of 7 feet 6 3/4 inches. This is greater than the setback that's required for the existing structure as a one-story house, but the zoning code actually requires a two-story structure to have an 8-foot setback. So the applicant is requesting a reduction of the required setback for the second floor for as much as 6 inches for the reduction. So this is the location map. And what I wanted to show you is, it probably wasn't clear in your handout, but this shows a graphic of their proposed second story. I think you can see the part in red. So the part in red that goes up to a second floor here. This is the garage. So there's no second floor over the garage. It comes in and comes up. And this distance here is only 16 feet. This is the amount of wall area that would be against that property line. So in other words, this is that western property line, and this is the second floor that would be adjacent to it. And the use of this area would be for office. They're also intending to have a master bedroom suite that's added, but that would be over in this area of the house. The adjacent structure is a 1.5-story house. There are a mix of 1- and 2-story structures within the neighborhood. 2 stories are permitted. And so just to look at the findings of fact, it's the best way to construct the structures to build the walls directly above the first floor. And that's what the applicant is planning to do if this is approved. They would like to have the load transfer down to the existing foundation and footing below. But it would require that encroachment of 6 inches, or just less than 6 inches, actually. It fits well into the context of the neighborhood. It would be the best for health safety to have the building as structurally sound as possible. And through this means of construction, the request does not exceed the reduction limit. The code actually allows a request up to 2 feet. This is only for 6 inches. And the allowed use is, being residential low density, is an expansion of what's already permitted in the neighborhood and what's already existing. The proposed addition also complies with all other setbacks, and it is the minimum necessary to accomplish what the applicant is trying to do here. So we really applaud the fact that the second floor is only for a limited area on this property line. We believe that really helps the case, and it won't be an intrusive situation to the neighboring property. And so staff recommends approval of alternative number 1 with the conditions that the exception be recorded if it is approved by the board, and that you adopt the findings of fact and conclusions stated herein. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have one question, and I presume that the neighboring property owner was notified. And did you hear anything from them?
No, I have not heard from, I did have one call, just an inquiry because of the sign that was put out as to what the sign meant. But I have not had any opposition from any neighbors.
Thank you.
Is the neighboring property 2010 Kildee Street? Or is it one of the folks that signed on to the adjoining property owner statement then?
I don't recall what the neighboring property is addressed as.
I did look it up and
You
it
did?
is, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Would the applicant like to speak? Up to the microphone, please. State your name and address.
My name is Eric Bading. I helped design this, and my address is 5213 Thackeray Drive, Ames, Iowa.
And do you swear to tell the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I just wanted to mention that I did talk to the owners to the south and to the west, and brought them the plans that you see before you, and talk through what was going to be happening to the house. So I just wanted to let you guys know that I did talk to them.
Okay. Any questions for designer? Thanks, Eric.
Yeah, sure.
Anything else from the applicant's team? Nope. Anyone from the audience wish to speak for or against? Seeing none, back to staff and the applicant for concluding remarks.
I don't have any concluding remarks except to say that staff recommends alternative 1.
Okay, thank you. To the board for discussion.
Like Eloise said in the staff report and in the presentation, I appreciate that it's just an encroachment of 6 inches, and that 6-inch encroachment is a width of 16 feet, not the whole width of the dwelling. So I'd like to move alternative 1. The zoning board of adjustment approves the exception, and the condition is that it be recorded in the office of the county recorder.
Second.
Then you call roll call. You can just use first names too.
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Any person desiring to appeal this decision to a court of record may do so within 30 days after the filing of this decision. Next on the agenda is a special use permit to allow a greater than 20,000 square feet site development in the neighborhood commercial zoning district and an alternative landscape plan for the property located at 619 Burnett Avenue. This would be the Fairway grocery store.
All right. Yes, this is Fairway Grocery Store as the applicant, and they are here tonight. The property is located in the neighborhood commercial zoning district. The map shows the area. Fairway has existed at the site for a very long time, and they've had the existing store there since 1969, is my understanding. And they're wishing to build a new store that would be a modern, medium-sized grocery store of approximately 24,247 square feet, which is larger than their existing store. And while they build that store, they're wanting to keep the current store open. So logistically, it is possible, but it does leave some challenges. The site is also faced with some challenges in that that they have acquired the 2 properties down off of 6th and Clark, and those properties now have been combined into the one lot, which is the entire block. But because of that, there are 4 street frontages. That's very unusual. I don't think there's any other properties in neighborhood commercial with even 3 frontages, let alone 4 frontages. So it does lend some difficulties to what would be the normal requirements for the property. And also trying to accommodate the construction of a new building and so forth. So within neighborhood commercial, this zoning district is primarily intended, it primarily is smaller parcels with smaller buildings on it. Most of the parcels have buildings with footprints of less than 2,500 square feet. So this entire site is 2.33 acres. So you can see that that's part of what makes it unusual as well. So that within the neighborhood commercial zoning regulations, it does allow for development of a property of this size, but that is why it's coming to you tonight for a special use permit, is because the development is greater than 20,000 square feet. And so it's subject to a special use permit. And as part of that review, the review is to make sure that it's compatible with its surroundings. So you can see the zoning around this property to the north and to the west. It has RM zoning as part of Old Town. To the east, it has additional neighborhood commercial. To the south, it has both downtown service center zoning as well as government zoning. So there's a lot of variations of the zoning, but as is typical with neighborhood commercial properties, there is residential zoning adjacent to it. And that's part of what needs to be reviewed for compatibility to any potential impact to the residential, and to ensure that the scale, use, and design is addressed to be compatible with what is surrounding the property. The new store will have its building located along Burnett Avenue. This is basically showing the new parking lot layout and the new building. This is the building over here, located snug against Burnett Avenue with a small setback. And then it would have access from 6th Street, Clark, and 7th Street coming in. It would retain, Fairway likes to have angled parking, and so they are proposing to continue that strategy. This entrance drive would actually be 24 feet wide, so it would accommodate two-way traffic, even though the angle is set up to appear as a one-way travel lane. On the north side of the building will be the loading and truck area. So trucks can come in and turn in here and then back up into the loading area. There's also a refrigeration unit and their dumpster and in that vicinity as well. That area is screened by a wall, which continues the appearance of the building around, and that wall is set back 5 feet. The setbacks within neighborhood commercial, this side on 6th Street would be considered its primary frontage, and Burnett would be considered a secondary frontage. The setback is 10 feet from Burnett, but the code allows a reduced setback to 5 feet. They are actually proposing slightly more than that. It's let me pull that up. It's just over 7 feet. And I'm looking for the note to tell me that setback, 7.9 feet is the setback along Burnett. Let me show you the phasing plan. And you can see a little bit better how they intend to accomplish the construction. The arrows represent the entrances and exits to the site. This area here would be what's called phase 1, which is they would start by paving and adding parking in that area that they more recently purchased, which currently is not paved. That would provide some of the needed parking during the construction period. Phase 2 is the construction of the new building, which is in this area. And so the existing building is in this area marked as phase 3. So the new building would be completed and opened prior to the building in phase 3 being demolished. As part of the demolition, the building would be brought down, and then the stormwater system, which would be under the pavement, so it would be underground, would be constructed at phase 3. During construction of the new building, access would continue to be brought from this side for truck deliveries and loading for the existing store, as it is today, because the existing loading for the store is in this area. So that could continue. And then once the new store opens, they would be able to have access there.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Okay, so because I found it, the scale of the site plans that we were given was very small,
Okay,
so it made it difficult. Well, it made it impossible to read.
all right.
I'll be frank. You mentioned And the report says that the reduced setback on Burnett is 7.9 feet.
Yes,
Could you tell us the setback on Sixth?
yes. The setback on 6,
57.
let me find that. I believe it's noted in your report. But I may not have highlighted it in my copy.
I might say 57.
It's just less than 60 feet. Maybe I'll just look at the plans. That might be faster than trying to find it in my notes. There's a requirement that the setback, that the primary setback cannot exceed 60 feet, and it is at 57.5 feet
Okay.
to 6th Street.
There it is. Right under the 2K.
2K are steps.
Right, but the 57 and a half is right
57 and a
under-
half. Okay, there it is. Yep. Okay.
All right, continuing. The parking that will be provided includes, as it's fully developed, it will have 108 parking spaces. They're only required to have 81, but of course during construction, they will have far less than that available for parking. I'm gonna zoom out. So they can utilize on-street parking, and there is on-street parking available around on 3 sides of this property, as well as they have requested a remote parking agreement from the city to have as many as 20 remote spaces that they would have access to from the city lot. That's just it's just to the east of City Hall and just to the south of this site. So they will be provided 20 spaces, up to 20 spaces during construction that they can use to help supplement the reduction of required spaces during the construction time. The parking lot will be lighted with dark sky fixtures as well as the loading area. And there will be sidewalks included that directly access the front of the stores right here. It faces to the west. So there'll be a direct sidewalk access from this point as well as this point to Burnett to come across. There is a bus stop over here, but we believe that the best direct route for the bus stop folks is to take the public sidewalk and then come in this way. So part of this request tonight is for an alternative landscape plan. And what that means is that the plan has a variation from what the code would generally require. And but it has been prepared by a licensed landscape architect, which is one of the requirements to be approved as an alternative landscape plan. And the code requires, I don't know how familiar you are with the landscaping code. There's several requirements related to the landscaping. One is what's called front yard landscaping. Any frontage between a building and a street is required to have front yard landscaping. Well, in this case, there's 4 front yards on the site. Because the setback is so tight along Burnett, that frontage would not be required to have the front yard landscaping trees, but there are some existing trees in the right-of-way. Those can't really count toward their required trees, but they do help buffer the building from the street and the street from the building and sidewalk as well. They have included shrubbery and ornamental grasses in that space between the building and the sidewalk and the property line. And then coming over to this area is an open space area that's just less than 60 feet and includes combination of trees and shrubbery and grasses. And they anticipate having some outdoor eating area, I believe, in this area. This area here are brick pavers, and they're not showing sitting areas per se, but I think they're anticipating using it that way as a public gathering area and a place for their customers to sit and maybe enjoy a meal or something, or apple or something. So then the front yard landscaping generally requires 1 tree per every 50 linear feet of frontage. So to meet their 20 required front yard trees, they have 17 trees on site. And then we have requested that they include 3 street trees in the city's right of way over on Clark to help supplement their required front yard trees to equal 20 trees. The second requirement is what's called parking lot landscaping. Parking lot landscaping requires 10% of the paved parking and loading area to be divided by 200 square feet to give you the number of trees that are required. Based on that number, they would be required to have 11 parking lot trees. I'm sorry, not 11. They have 11 parking lot trees. They would be required to have 27 additional trees beyond the front yard landscaping trees. Well, you can see on this site that is so constrained that there's not opportunity for 27 more trees. And it's unusual in that it has 4 front yards. Generally, a site has some area to the back next to the parking or something where they can include those required trees. So this is unusual. But they are including 11 overstory trees that would count toward the required parking lot trees. And we have required as a minimum that they include these parking lot trees, which include a total of 6 parking lot trees. There are 4 islands basically that are dispersed within the parking lot, and that dispersal is required. The reason that we are not requiring more, we normally would want something up in here, but it just won't work because they have underground stormwater retention in that area. And then this is their drive aisle, which is also heavy pavement for the truck traffic. So we felt that this was a very good compromise to achieve the purpose of the code and the intent of the code, and then actually going beyond what would normally be required by including these 3 extra trees over in the right of way. And then, of course, this green space here, within the neighborhood commercial area, they're required to do at least 15% landscaping on their site. And because of that large green area, they're including 19%. So we feel that they have met the requirements for the alternate landscape plan. So moving on to the architecture, the neighborhood commercial zoning code, which actually was amended this fall, does require some architectural features. And the requirement for larger buildings requires it to be broken up into 40-foot increments to give the appearance of something smaller. So just to, I think I'll zoom in a little bit here. So this is the the part that faces Clark. So this is the front entrance to the store, and the parking field is on this side. So when you park, you would see this side of the building. On this side of the building, they have some transom windows along here and some larger windows with awnings here. And then a nice feature highlighting the entryway, which includes an awning. And additionally, the parapet is raised at the entrance. And it's also raised approximately every 40 feet to create that element of not, to create diversity in the height of the building. And then additionally, those elements where the parapet is raised are flanked by darker brick that helps to offset those elements and give more definition to them. The building material is brick. They will do poured in place concrete that is that includes a brick veneer onto the concrete. And so it's a quality material that is permitted under the architectural guidelines. The architectural guidelines say that precast panels with the appearance of brick are permitted. So there is quite a bit of diversity on this frontage. This frontage is the faces 6th Street, and there again, it's got the entryway. People come in this side, but this is actually an emergency exit here, and that courtyard and green space is in front of this part of the building. The facade that faces Burnett is here. It includes windows. It includes a change in parapet height. And there again, a diversity, a change in texture and color of the brick material. And this is that wall that extends past the building itself to enclose the loading area and the refrigeration unit. And then another thing that they're doing that we require that the roof equipment be screened. And so they're showing that screening on the roof. It's not real clear to me how much of that will even be apparent from the street level, but they are abiding with that requirement so that this roof equipment is screened. This is the frontage of the building along 7th Street. And so this is actually the loading area. This is that wall that comes in. So the loading area goes behind that wall. But there again, the parapets, the change of texture, change of roof, of the roof variation and so forth. So we think it's a very nice looking building, and they've worked with us to meet our requirements. So going through the findings of fact, I'm just going to go through that really fast unless there are any questions at this point.
You do fine.
Okay. So the first one is be harmonious with and in accordance with the land use plan. We do believe that the site is consistent with the land use policy plan and meets general standard 1. We believe it to be harmonious and appropriate with the existing and intended character of the general vicinity, and that the use will not change this essential character of the area. There's already a big box grocery store on this block, and this facility will much improve the architecture over what the existing building has, and even the existing building setbacks. This will be much more pedestrian friendly, as is required in the neighborhood commercial code. So in conclusion, we believe that it meets general standard 2, that it does, that the scale of the building has been made to fit well within the context of the area. Number 3, that it not be hazardous or disturbing to existing or future uses in the vicinity. It does meet the design standards in the code for compatibility with the surroundings, and we believe it can be concluded that it meets general standard 3. Be served adequately by essential public facilities. The existing site is already served as an infill site, so that is easier to achieve than a new greenfield site would be. We believe it is adequately served and that it can be concluded that it meets general standard 4. That it not create excessive additional requirements at public cost for public facilities or services, and it will not require any public cost for public facilities or services, and so it can be concluded it meets general standard 5. That it not involve uses, activities, processes, equipment, or conditions detrimental or produce excessive traffic, noise, smoke, fumes, glare, or odors. And we believe that it will not produce those excessive items, and that it can be concluded that it meets general standard 6. Be consistent with the intent and purpose of the zone. And we do believe it fits the character of the neighborhood commercial district. The building design, layout, and operations of the site meet the purpose and intent of the neighborhood commercial zone, and it can be concluded it meets general standard 7. Commercial zone standards. Be compatible with potential commercial development and use of property plan to occur in the area. We believe it fits well within that area and will be a good neighbor. The proposed use is compatible with the use of properties in the area, and therefore it can be concluded that the use meets commercial zone standard 1. Represent the sufficiently desirable need for the entire community. Well, that's easy. Everybody wants Fairway to stay in the downtown and in this location. They've had a lot of support from the council and from the public, and a lot of excitement because there'll be a new store with a more modern store and a larger store in this location. So we do believe it's compatible with the use of properties in the area, and that it does not result in the loss of commercial land, so that it meets commercial zone standard 2. Be consistent with the other applicable standards of the zone. And yes, it can be concluded that it meets the commercial zone standard 3. The alternative design approval for the landscaping, the plan was prepared by a licensed landscape architect. And even though they do have a reduced tree count of overstory trees, they are including 4 islands for trees, which include actually 6 trees within the parking lot. And the number of trees is required to be reduced by an alternative landscape plan when it's believed that it satisfies the purposes described in section 29.403 and provides a high quality landscape that exceeds the quality of base standards despite the constraints, and staff does support that. One issue that it has not been totally satisfied at this point is that stormwater is still outstanding. And as mentioned in the report, but I didn't highlight it, is that in this area, apparently there's a high water table. And so the engineer is requesting additional information, and so the stormwater management plan has not been approved, nor has the stormwater pollution prevention plan been approved. So the approval of this plan tonight would need to be conditioned on the applicant satisfying all stormwater management plan and stormwater pollution prevention plan requirements. And the condition in the agenda item says just prior to final occupancy of the site, completing that approval and construction. So our recommended action as staff is that you do grant the alternative landscape plan approval and that you grant the special use permit that's been requested. And so we recommend alternative 1.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Could you show the assessors page graphic for me? I think
Which
it was-
page?
The assessors page.
Oh, the property assessor?
Yes,
Was that in?
that was your first
The
slide.
beacon aerial image?
The location, I think.
Oh, the location map?
Attachment A.
Okay, yes. This one?
Yes.
You want me to zoom out?
So on Burnett, those are businesses, correct?
Yes. There are some dwelling units above some of the businesses, some apartments, but the ground floor is retail. And then, of course, this is actually a parking lot here.
Mm-hmm.
There's a chiropractor's office and some other offices. The other thing I did not mention, but that mail drop is right here, and
Right.
that would continue to be there.
Okay. Well, that moves it away from other residential, so I'm happy about that. Anything else from the board? Would the applicant like to speak? Please state your name and address,
Kobe Pritchard, Fairway Stores, 715 8th Street, Boone, Iowa.
and do you swear to tell the truth?
I do.
Thanks.
Let you guys catch all that. I think it was that was thorough. Eloise, you kind of did all the work for me there, so thanks. Our hope is that, as you see all the things we've tried to do and get this to work together with the city, and obviously this is exciting because it's something that's happening right across the street here. So it's exciting to talk about. It's obviously a project that we're really proud of, and Eloise kind of covered everything, so I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Okay.
When are you hoping to start construction? Do you know?
Yeah, so Eloise, do you mind going to the phase
Sure.
1, 2, and 3? So phase 1, I think, assuming everything goes smoothly, after this, May is kind of when phase 1 would start. That'll take several months to kind of get that parking lot extended, get everything laid out to where we're going to expand our parking lot for leading into phase 2, which is obviously the new building construction. So phase 2, we start as soon as that's done in July. And then we get that new store open April-ish of 2020. And then obviously into phase 3, which demo of the old building, and then we want to have everything done, cleaned up, opened up as the new fairway before the students get here August-ish. So that's ambitious, but we're prepared, and I think we're ready to do it.
Obviously, you got to wait for the snow to melt.
Of course, yeah. Until all the rain comes in May, and who knows what else. But
Any other questions?
Not of
Okay.
the applicant.
Thank you. Anyone from the audience wishing to comment for or against? Please state your name and address.
My name's Peter Halleck at 114 8th Street, Ames. And I'm a member of the
I'm
Old
sorry,
Town.
do you swear to tell the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Okay.
Be slow.
I'm a member of the Old Town Neighborhood Association and also represent the residents of the historic district on the Historic Preservation Board or Commission. But talking with people in the neighborhood, we are very supportive of this project. We feel that it's critical and that Fairway is a big part of what makes our neighborhood a walkable neighborhood. We have the library, we have Fairway. Those are as far as I'm concerned, two of the main things that it's nice to be able to walk right to them. We're so happy to have Fairway reinvesting in the downtown area. And we also think that the design of this new store, we're happy to see that it's larger, more square footage, but it's also going to really beautify the block. The current store really has very little in the way of any kind of break up of the parking. It was built at a time before that kind of thing was required. The other thing that was mentioned already is the setbacks on this will be, there's virtually no setback from the sidewalk on the existing store, both on the west and on the north side. This one with a almost 8-foot setback, plus there's an extremely wide boulevard where the mail drop-off is on the Burnett side. This will be so much better than the existing in terms of the buffering from the pedestrians and the neighborhood. The other feature that we really like is that whereas the current store on the Clark Street side and on the north side on 7th has residences immediately across the street. This pulls it back half a block from those, and as far as I know, there aren't any apartments above the insurance agency on Burnett. I do business in that building, and as far as I know, it's all businesses along that other side of Burnett. So we're very happy with this. We also like the green space along 6th Avenue there at the corner. We'll make a nice, almost Vest Park type of setting. So we're very supportive and hope to see this proceed.
Thank you, Peter. Anyone else like to speak for or against? Seeing none, back to staff or applicant for concluding remarks.
I don't have any concluding remarks. Staff supports alternative 1, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Sure.
Peter, thanks for your comments. We appreciate it. And one other thing I was going to add, we did hold, I think it was 2 weeks ago on the negative 20-degree night, a neighborhood meeting where we invited everyone to come and kind of especially go through these phases and kind of describe the project, voice any concerns. And we did have a decent turnout and the support was good. So just kind of wanted to add to what Peter said.
Thank you. Thought you had some questions for staff.
No, I read something a little bit more carefully and it took away my question.
Okay.
So,
Anything else? All right, discussion.
I would just like to say that I do agree with staff's finding of facts from this report. And as a result, I'd like to make a motion to approve this request for a special use permit and also to accept the alternative landscape plan for 619 Burnett to allow for a site development greater than 20,000 square feet for a new Fairway downtown grocery store in the neighborhood commercial zone. And however, this is subject to the following conditions: that prior to the final occupancy of the site and completing of the parking lot improvements, that they must obtain final approval to the stormwater management plan, as well as the stormwater pollution protection plan from the city's engineer.
Second? Roll call.
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Any person desiring to appeal this decision to the court of record may do so within 30 days after the filing of this decision. Thanks, Eloise. That was a long one. Next on the agenda is a request for a special use permit to allow a yard waste collection and transfer facility at 220 and 400 Friel Drive. Justin?
Thank you. Good evening. Chamnus Technology has applied for, as you said, a special use permit to allow a yard waste collection and transfer facility at 220 and 400 Friel Drive. The location of this is, actually give you a little bit better overview here real quick. They're to the south of Lincoln Way on the east side of Friel Drive. That's one of the parcels there that's indicated in yellow. The proposal is for the collection and occasional transfer of yard waste as will be dropped off by the public, which will go through the site, and I'll go in to that here right now. The proposed addresses 220 and 400 are located there. This is 400 Friel, 220 to the north. You can see the indicated entrances and exits, and then the drop-off and storage area there further to the east on the east side of 400 Friel Drive. The request tonight at this location follows previous approval for a special use permit for the same activity here. This has come before you a couple of times before. The special use permits have been temporary, which is also what our proposal is tonight, that this be a 2-year conditioned special use permit. And the reasoning for it is that the city of Ames has extended a contract for additional 2 years with Chamnus to collect and transfer yard waste at this location. Some of the details here on the site operation are that the site will operate Monday, Wednesday, and Friday afternoons, and Saturdays 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. through late fall. Yard waste can be brought in, and then for a fee, of course, left at the facility where the Chamnus employees will reduce it and transfer it out. The typical traffic here, customer visit would be no more than a handful of customers during the morning or the afternoon. There will be community-wide free yard waste collection days, which will be hosted at the site. That's 1 time in the spring and then 4 times in the fall. And then there will be the free yard waste days when residents can drop off their accumulated yard waste, and that'll occur on Saturdays. Just some details of what will be on the site. Typically nothing more than some yard waste piles. There will be a grinder chipper that will be brought on site. There will also be a porta potty that will be put on site as well for use by employees. The access will be, as you can see there again, from Friel, and the circulation will be east to then north and then back to the west, exiting back out onto Friel. So the proposed, zoom out here, proposed circulation, you can see there, there'll be 3 lines of traffic through the drop-off area and then exiting there to the northwest.